feel like last year when it had this like big weekly candle up, it then just continued to accelerate. Same thing in 2023, it just continued to accelerate. It is nice that Bitcoin has gone to an all-time high, and hopefully it can go higher. Remember in 2021 when it finally went higher, in October, it was only a sweep of the prior high from April. Ideally, we see more than just that at this point.
Cowen meticulously highlights a recurring playbook, notably the post-August local high, leading to a 2-week rally, a subsequent 2-week correction, and then an ascent to new cycle highs. This precise sequence, observed in 2020 and demonstrably unfolding once more, underpins the analytical framework for navigating the present landscape. The consistency of a high in August or early September, a September low, and a subsequent rally into a market cycle top in the post-halving year, a pattern evident across 2013, 2017, and 2021, serves as our foundational premise. As Bitcoin recently notched new all-time highs in October, this historical validation becomes increasingly significant, challenging the often prevalent "this time is different" narrative.
Subscribe to Daily Bitcoin Trends for expert insights, real-time market updates, and proven crypto strategies. No hype, just smart analysis to help you make better decisions in crypto.
We went through this process pretty closely and even talked about how this might play out exactly like 2020 did. At least after the local high in August, you get a two-week rally off the bull market support band, a 2-week drop, and then a rally to a new cycle high. And that's basically what happened over here, right? 2 weeks up, 2 weeks down, and then you can see the rally that then ensued. What's really interesting about Bitcoin is that it seems to be repeating the same pattern over and over and over again, where it puts that high in August. It then puts in a low in September and then rallies into a market cycle top in the post-halving year. Now, the high is not always August. Sometimes it's like early September, but going back to 2013, you can generally see a high in August, a low in September, and then a rally into the market cycle top. Same thing in 2017. You see the rally into the market cycle top after that September pullback. Same thing in 2021. And then sure enough, once again, we saw the same thing play out. So it's funny because, it always feels like when we talk about like, this is the most likely outcome. And then everyone does these like mental mind games where like, well, if everyone's talking about it, then it's not going to happen. And then it ends up just happening anyways, So, I mean, it is nice that Bitcoin has gone to an all-time high, and hopefully it can go higher. Remember in 2021 when it finally went higher, in October, it was only a sweep of the prior high from April. Ideally, we see more than just that at this point, but I'd like to see some daily closes actually above the prior wick high. We haven't actually seen that yet. So you can see that wick there. We did get a close above, but then the second one we have not. So let's see if we can get some follow through by Bitcoin. The one thing to note is that Bitcoin dominance does continue to go up. So people are slowly getting the memo that liquidity is in fact flowing to Bitcoin. Some people I feel like are, on Twitter, they're like, well, what about Bitcoin dominance? Guys, it's been going up for 3 weeks. I mean, it is moving up, right? It was up 0.32%, then 0.99, and then 1.32, right? It is moving up. It might not be moving up as quickly as you want it to, but dominance is in fact moving up. So we'll see what Bitcoin does. The one thing I will say, with it now being October, is don't be complacent, right? Because as much as everyone wants to believe that this time is different, and as much as everyone wants to believe that it's like a 5-year cycle or something like that, anything's possible. Anything's possible. But the reality is that all major market cycle tops have occurred in the fourth quarter of the post-halving year. And I think it's prudent to just not get complacent about that idea as we progress through the fourth quarter. Now, unfortunately, no one has a crystal ball. No one can tell you exactly the price that Bitcoin will top at, whether it's 125K or whether it's a lot higher. But I will say that some of the things that you can use, like one of the things that you could potentially use is a couple of weekly closes below the 50-week moving average. That's usually a sign that the top is in. So again, that 50-week moving average is now at $101,000. And what you'll notice is that all prior tops were in when Bitcoin got weekly closes below that 50-week moving average. Normally it happens in that post-halving year. or sometime in the midterm year. So watch for that. That's usually a sign that the cycle is over. We're not there yet, right? Like Bitcoin is still trending up. It's just something to keep in mind. For now, Bitcoin has bounced off the 21-week EMA, and then it came back down, found a higher low, and bounced again. So we've seen a really nice move by Bitcoin, but again, we want to see follow through. Last cycle, we didn't really get the follow through. Hopefully we can see it play out with a little bit more strength this cycle. But, again, nothing is guaranteed. I think the way to think about this is the most likely outcome is top in Q4, right? And with Bitcoin putting in a new all-time high in October, it just kind of like validates this whole cycle theory stuff that, even throughout the post-halving year, here we are, Q4, the post-halving year, and once again, we have a new all-time high. And once again, we have people saying that it's not going to be the quarter where the cycle tops out. Go into it assuming, in my opinion, I'm going to go into this assuming the top will be in Q4, and I'm going to be looking for indicators that'll provide, confluence to the idea, whenever that's in. In the short term, let's see if Bitcoin can get some follow through on this. If you look at last year when it had this like big weekly candle up, it then just continued to accelerate. Same thing in 2023, it just continued to accelerate.
The crux of Cowen's argument pivots on the critical importance of the fourth quarter in post-halving years as the most probable period for market cycle tops. While the precise price remains elusive, complacency, he warns, is a luxury experienced investors cannot afford. A key indicator to monitor for confluence with a potential top is the weekly closes below the 50-week moving average. Historically, sustained closes beneath this threshold, currently around $101,000, have reliably signaled the conclusion of a cycle. Furthermore, the rising Bitcoin dominance is a crucial, often overlooked signal. Despite some market participants questioning its pace, Bitcoin dominance has been steadily climbing for weeks, indicating a clear liquidity flow back into Bitcoin and away from altcoins. This trend not only reinforces Bitcoin's leadership, but also suggests that altcoins may continue to struggle as liquidity centralizes. The absence of widespread retail euphoria, as evidenced by relatively low social risk metrics, presents an intriguing dichotomy, given Bitcoin's new all-time highs. This suggests a more institutional or informed capital inflow, rather than a broad-based speculative retail frenzy.
We'll take it one day at a time. We'll do a video probably soon, where we go through some of like the peak indicators, like some of the indicators that you would expect to sort of fire off, saying that like this is the top, like we had last cycle, right? Because like last cycle, it wasn't in November, but in April of 2021, like all the indicators that people had created were essentially going off in April of 2021. None of them have really gone off at this point this cycle. The only ones that have are the time-based indicators, right? Like the this is how long the rally normally lasts after the halving, or this is how long the rally normally lasts after the low. Like those are the only ones that are starting to fire off. Whereas the other ones, the ones that try to help us identify euphoria, haven't actually done that yet. I think the scary thing is, we haven't really seen new retail investors come back, right? If you look at the social risk, it still remains relatively low. So I guess, are people going to come back, or people just don't care anymore? Again, like, do I think Bitcoin has done what it's always done? Yeah, because it's Q4 of the post-halving year, and it just put an all-time high. So we can celebrate that this view is played out. I think a lot of the euphoria or lack thereof comes from the fact that the altcoin market continues to struggle. And unfortunately, it's probably going to continue because Bitcoin dominance is likely heading higher. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. The truth doesn't really concern itself with what other people think. But dominance is likely going to go higher as Bitcoin just continues to suck in liquidity from the rest of the cryptoverse. So again, one of the things I mentioned to look for confluence for these new all-time highs in Q4 was watch for Bitcoin dominance to go up. We saw that Bitcoin dominance was going up, so we said, all right, we're likely going to continue to see a rally into October, get a new all-time high. Because we see dominance going up, we see that the market is figuring out what matters. And sure enough, a new all-time high had happened. Bitcoin went to $125,000. 125.7K.
As we progress through this critical fourth quarter, the prevailing assumption grounded in historical precedent must be that a cycle top remains the most likely outcome. While no one possesses a crystal ball to pinpoint the exact peak, the confluence of time-based indicators, those signaling how long a rally typically lasts post-halving or post-low, are beginning to fire off. However, the euphoria identifying indicators, typically associated with widespread retail participation, have yet to activate. This divergence is noteworthy. We must continue to observe for sustained daily closes above prior wick highs in Bitcoin's price, and crucially for further acceleration. The sustained increase in Bitcoin dominance, signaling intelligent capital rotation, remains a powerful affirmation of this cyclical thesis, allowing us to celebrate Bitcoin's new all-time high as a validation of these long-standing patterns. The path forward demands vigilance and a deep understanding of these historical signals to navigate the potential climax of this market cycle.